Hi guys, Viking Reefing here. I realized that it's been quite a while since I made an actual update video on the goings on with this tank. So my wife and kid is out of the house for a couple of hours, so I thought I would take the time to record one for you. Overall, I'd say that the tank really has started flourishing. Knock on wood, there's no wood around, but yeah, I'll find some. And I think that mostly has to do with maturity. It was about 14 months since I set up this tank, and generally speaking, tanks tend to find their groove after about a year or so, which is quite evident with this tank now. The major things that I'm seeing is more overall stability in terms of parameters, both nutrients and the alkalinity uptake and everything, and exponential coral growth, which is awesome. Some of these benefits could also be due to some of the recent changes that I've done to this tank, mostly in terms of lighting, flow, and my dosing. But we'll get into that in a bit. One very weird thing just happened, as I was about to record here, that I have to tell you about. I have these lids here from Top Lids, which are awesome, and they have these feeding ports here. So I fed the fish just before I started the video. And I was just about to set up the camera. I turned around, I heard kind of a splash, saw something orange shoot across my vision, landed on the radiator to my left, and then went plonk down to the floor and started jumping around. It was that hogfish that jumped out on me. And if there's one fish that I'm not terribly interested in handling with my hands, it's that one, because when I transferred it to this tank from my QT tank, the darn thing bit my hand, which actually kind of hurt. It has kind of like fangs or something. So that was kind of weird. Really scared the crap out of me for a bit. If you saw my previous video, or you follow me on Instagram, you can see that I got myself a new Moorish idol, and it is doing spectacularly well. I kept it in quarantine for a couple of weeks, and another week in a basically a acclimatization box here, because I was worried about the Achilles, because that mean son of a gun has actually killed another idol for me in the past. It kind of had a rough introduction once I let it out of the acclimatization box, since the Achilles was on it straight away. But the good thing, which made me not too worried about it, was that it was mainly chasing and it wasn't slashing it with its scalpel. And that took about 3 days to really subside. There's still a bit of chasing, but nothing really that worries me. It's feeding on everything. I feed the tank, so it feeds on frozen foods, pellets, flake foods, and algae. It's just doing great. So very happy about that. I've really been missing keeping an idol in my tank. Oh, you can see it got kind of scared of the Achilles right there. My Imperator here has slowly started to transition from a juvenile into a subadult. You can see some color changes on the topmost of its body here. So that's going to be quite interesting to follow that guy develop as well. I also got a new cleaner wrasse. It's the same time as I got the idol. And I got a bunch of these little spring ride damsels. The main point of getting those was if I ever got any aqua-eating flatworms or something. They're quite good at eating flatworms, so I thought, why not get some additional insurance for those. As I said, my corals have really started kicking off. I had that issue with my iodine spike that killed off a bunch and really slowed down growth for quite a while. But I'm seeing very good growth on a bunch of them. This millipora did nothing for the longest time, and you can see that it now has growth tips, so that's awesome. This guy, I think that's a, let's see if we can get my finger here, there. I think that's a vermiculata. It looks better under blues, but it's quite a well-balanced spectrum right now. That has really kicked off. It has probably increased like 35% in size for the last couple of months, so that's awesome to see. These two torches, I believe the left one is a Holy Grail and the right one is a Torch of the Gods. I got them, they were only one head apiece, and now they're already splitting, and after a couple of months, really flourished in this tank, so that's nice to see. I love torches. The problem is that I have nowhere to put them, since they have a tendency to sting stuff. This Hellfire right here, I fragged off a bunch of heads quite recently, but it's just so freaking big. Not sure what to do about that. It basically takes up this entire corner here, right here. I don't think I have any new livestock apart from that you haven't really seen before. I did get one of these guys, but I think you've seen him in the past as well. I believe it's a Valencia Pollinaris. Very nice little guy. Helps keep my sand clean. I'm probably going to get a couple of more of those guys because one isn't really enough for this tank. And I have 4 of these as well. Oops. They're mainly for cyano, because they're supposed to be quite good at eating cyano. They're not terribly good at sifting the sand, unfortunately. And I've now had the MP40s for like 3 weeks or something at this point, maybe 4. And I think they've also really attributed to the overall success, or the overall improvement of the tank. They provide such a wide flow, so I probably had some dead spots in the past. And I can really see more polyp extension, and yeah, well, higher pH actually, since I got them, which should probably point to more photosynthesis going on here, so happier corals. The only slight issue I'm having is I have this tenuis right here. It's slowly been going downhill. I believe it's some sort of a bacterial infection. It still has polyps out, which is kind of weird. Can't get it to focus. So that's kind of weird, but it's slowly receding. I've been doing this long enough, so my idea is that if it's just one coral that's affected and everything else is doing well, I'm not going to do anything. Generally speaking, if you start messing around with the tank just because of one coral, you're gonna have a lot of additional problems. So if a coral really wants to die, well, I basically let it. I tried fragging off a couple of branches and stuff as well, but those didn't really take. So I think there's a bacterial issue. I'll probably get everything out eventually, quite soon, so it doesn't really spread to my other aqua colonies. As you saw on my last video, I've installed my new light fixture, and I'm still super happy with it. The Geisman Aurora V12, which is full LED. It gives off great color, in my opinion. Really shows off the natural beauty of both the fish and corals, and the spread and intensity is very good as well. So that's definitely helped this tank overall as well. I have also been playing around with the light settings a bit to see if I can change the colors or get out some different colors on the corals. So what I do now is during the mornings I run my tank very blue. So basically all the blue channels to 100%, just some whites. I don't like that look whatsoever, but I'm interested to see if that changes anything. Promote perhaps some different color pigments in the corals. I've only been doing that for about 1 week or something, tops. So I'm guessing if I'm going to be seeing anything, it's probably going to be taking a couple of months at least. But I can't see any negative effects from doing that. So yeah, it's kind of an interesting experiment. I've never really ran a very blue tank before. So hopefully I can somehow get the best of both worlds. The really high intensity when I'm doing the full spectrum during the day, and perhaps some incremental colors from running a very blue spectrum during the mornings. We'll wait and see. I have no idea if this is going to work or if it's going to do anything. I've also now been running the Modern Reef system from, well, Modern Reef and Eurocorals for a couple, I think, let's see here, 2 or 3 months or something, and I must say that I'm really loving it. It's super easy. I basically have 4 jugs, so it's 2 alkalinity parts and 1 calcium and 1 magnesium, and it also contains all trace elements that you need, also vitamins and amino acids in the actual balling solution, which is very cool. So I'm not dosing any amino acids apart from that to the tank now, so that kind of simplifies things. The very interesting part is that they also have 2 other stuff that I'm dosing to this tank. One is called Polypop, which is supposed to be help with polyp extension and coral color. I can say that I do see some more polyp extension. I can't with 100% certainty say that it's just due to that. Something else might have changed, but I think I'm seeing the promised results from it actually. And there's also complete reef food, which is basically a liquid food that you can hook up on a dosing pump. And the interesting part is that both of those things, the dosing is based on alkalinity consumption. So since I have my cage director measuring and controlling my alkalinity and all the other dosing as well, because everything in the Modern Reef system is based off alkalinity consumption. So it actually does control all my trace elements, all my major elements, and also the food, because the amount of food that you add is also based on alkalinity consumption, which means that if your corals are growing more, it will add more food. If they're, for some reason, growing less and there's less alkalinity consumption, it will reduce that amount dosed. So it's a super simple system. It looks kind of weird once you first look at it, but if you delve a little bit deeper, it's super simple, especially if you have an alkalinity monitor that you let control everything as well. I believe I've showed this off in a previous video, but I'm super happy with my controller cabinet here. Now, when I got the controllers for MP40s, it really all came together. It looks super sleek, and I'm very happy with it. And it does have a protective screen here. I got some salt stuff here, which is a very good insurance due to my daughter, who is also using this room as a playroom, so I don't really want her yanking on tubes or fiddling with the controllers or anything like that. The warning light is because one of my dosing fluids is low, I believe. When I used a different balling system, I used to run Kalkwater on this system as well to keep my pH up. But due to everything being based off alkaline consumption with the Modern Reef system, I couldn't be dosing extra alkalinity from another source because it would throw everything out of whack. So I had to discontinue that. And I have a relatively high pH on this tank, even though it's in a basement. because I have a fresh air vent in my sump room. I believe my pH, if I'm not doing anything to boost it, has a low about an 8 and a high of 8.25 or something like that. But I do like to keep my pH a bit higher. It seems to make the corals slightly more resistant to pathogens and disease. And it also obviously increases growth on corals because calcification can occur quicker at higher pH levels. So I started trying to do a CO2 scrubber, but since this is quite a big tank, I burned through media like there's no tomorrow, and I quickly realized that this probably really isn't financially viable in the long term, because I was burning through, I believe it was 2 liters of media every week or something like that, which is kind of too much. So I had a little bit of a think. I had a discussion with some reefing pals of mine, and I came up with a solution for that. A recirculating CO2 scrubber. The weird part is that there's nothing on the market that is easily to hook up, at least not in Europe, to do a recirculating system on it. Weirdly enough, there's tons of CO2 scrubbers. Basically every brand has a CO2 scrubber these days. But in my opinion, at least, they've kind of screwed up, because none of them has the option of making them recirculating. Everyone has some sort of a vent on the bottom, which sucks air in, and basically just goes through a tube from the top and into the skimmer, which is kind of a stupid design if you ask me. I have no idea why they do that. Maybe because they also sell CO2 media, so that kind of helps boost the sale of those, but I'm not playing that game. So let's have a look and see what I did. So this is my very messy sump. You might have seen it in the past. I don't really care if it looks super neat, because this is in a separate room and I don't have to look at it, and no one else has to as well. But anyways, so this is my skimmer. A Royal Exclusive Bubble King Supermarine 250 RD3 Speedy. Awesome skimmer, by the way. If you have quite a large tank, I highly recommend it. But anyways, so what I did was, you see here, this is the lid. It has 4 little holes here. I bought these carbon containers to filter out any residual ozone or smells, which is an awesome thing to have. So get those if you have a Royal Exclusive skimmer. But it has 4 holes, so I put a kind of a tube in here, and the skimmer sucks air from the collection cup. It goes up here, up into here. It goes up here, air goes down, it goes here, it goes down here, goes through here, focus, darn it, through that pipe, it goes up here, it goes down this tube, and it goes into the silencer here. This cost me about 30 euros to build, I believe. The connections, they were about 10 euros total, and these two were about 10 euros a pop as well. And the interesting thing is, or well, the kind of smart thing is that since this is color changing media, so I can see when it expires or start to expire, then I can switch these two around, so I can squeeze out the very last of this media and put this in the front. I put this media in here about 4 or 5 weeks ago, and still going strong. So very happy about that. My pH stays between 8.35 up to 8.5 during the day. So a low point of 8.35 with a high point of 8.5 for basically no money whatsoever. So I can highly recommend you guys doing something like this. I mentioned the modern reef stuff. So, like I said, there's 4 solutions to it. So they are dosed in the return chamber here. This is Polypop. This is the complete reef food. They are both in these containers here, which are magnetic stirrers in them. This is running low, so I need to get some more. This is actually no pox. I'm trying something here. I'm not a huge fan of carbon dosing per se, because I feel it kind of is too fragile of a system. But I'm dosing a very small amount of no-pox each day to see if I can promote some bacterial growth in the tank, which might benefit the corals, because that might be able to act as food for them. So we'll see what happens. I'm not really trying to use that to reduce my nutrients, because GFO and my skimmer and Ketomorpha and filter roller does a good job of that. One thing have been beginning to do is to dose some additional strontium, because I'm always deficient on that when I do an ICP test, and that's, I wouldn't even say that this is a trace element, because there's quite large amounts of strontium in seawater. So I'm trying to dose some of this stuff just to see if it helps with coral growth as well. As I said in my last video, I'm not really planning any huge additions of fish in any near future, really. I'm quite happy with my stock as it is, but what I really want to be focusing on now is stability of the tank, and I also want to be getting some more corals. I think I will mainly be focusing on tenuis and millipora, because I feel that those 2 species offer the widest variety, and perhaps a couple of deep water acros as well. And one last thing that I'm considering, and I would love it if you could give me some feedback on this idea, or if you think that would be interesting to see, down below in the comments. As you know, my sump is back here. Well, you can see the big tank here. I've actually been thinking about perhaps doing a smaller cube tank here, plumbed into the main system. So drilling holes through this wall, just hook it up to the sump that runs this tank. And the basic idea with this cube tank would be to keep some stuff that I'm not too comfortable keeping in the big tank. For example, feather dusters and rock flower anemones and really small fish. I'm also thinking doing only LPS in this tank. Truth be told, I really don't have any vast experience when it comes to LPS. Fun fact, I've never kept an ACAN, or what was previously known as ACANs. They're called, I guess, micromusos nowadays. So it would be an interesting challenge, and kind of a change of pace to do that as well. So I'm thinking like a 200-liter cube tank with some sort of a branching rock structure with torches on the top and some feather dusters scattered around the rock structure and on the bottom, and having a bunch of these cute little rock flower anemones in there, perhaps some porcelain crabs living in the rock flowers, and some sexy shrimps, some like twin spot gobies and things of that nature, pipefish. I'm not quite sure exactly what I'm going to stock it with. But let me know if that would be interesting, and if I should document the process on how I will be going about setting this tank up if I decide to do it. I think that was all I had for you guys today. I hope you liked this update. If you have any questions that you want answered, please post them down below in the comments. I try to respond to each and every comment I get. I would really appreciate it if you could give me a like, and I would be even happier if you could also consider subscribing to the channel. All the best, happy reefing, and have a good one. Bye!